Fleeing violence and a lack of economic opportunity, migrants from Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador are more than 1,000 miles away from the U.S. border. The group is seeking asylum. But will the U.S. open its door to them or slam it shut? I'm Mike Walter in for Anna Naidu, and this is The Heat. Capturing the world's attention, a group of migrants set out from Honduras earlier this month toward the U.S. Mexico border seeking asylum. This week, the UN estimated about 7,200 people were part of this group marching north from Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. They've made it to the southern Mexico area where they crossed the Suchiate River that creates a border between Guatemala and its northern neighbor. CGTN's Franc Contreras is there for us right now. And Frank, you've been traveling with and talking to these migrants for the past week. What are you hearing from them about their motivations to flee their homes and to make this dangerous journey to the United States?
Mike, over and over again, families, young people, I'm talking about teenagers, and a few elderly people in the migrant caravan tell us over and over again, as I said, they're fleeing violence in their country. Many of them told us stories about how they were trying to be recruited by gang members, Mara Salvatrucha gang members back home in Honduras. But one of the other major problems that's causing people to flee, they say, is the economy. They say there's simply no jobs. We talked to families that said there were no schools for their children to attend in Honduras. There's also a pull factor that takes place in this phenomenon, Mike. It's coming from the United States itself because that economy is such a strong one in this region, the most powerful by far. It is definitely a reason for people to seek a better life, they say here. The migrants telling CGTN that repeatedly in the past week during our coverage. The numbers of people coming through here have absolutely been impressive. According to local government figures, this is according to a census conducted by the municipal government here in Suchiate, they say that more than 7,000 migrants have passed through here in the last week alone. Earlier today, CGTN interviewed the mayor of the town of Suchiate, and here's what she had to say about the number of children crossing through here.
I was impressed once I knew the numbers. They're not scientific and could be higher. A little more than 2,300 children arrived here in Suchiate. What would you have done?
Mike, the families of those children are keenly aware that there has been a child separation policy in the United States when detentions do take place. Still, they insist they're going to try to make it all the way to the United States.
Frank, it's a remarkable story. These Central American migrants now in southern Mexico, more than 1,600 kilometers from the U.S. Mexico border. But if you're watching U.S. News, you'd think they were knocking on the door, that these migrants are simply seconds away from entering the country. How much is the rhetoric here in the United States playing into these people's hopes, their fears about coming north?
Mike, the people we've been talking to in the caravan this week are keenly aware that the U.S. President Donald Trump has been sending Twitter messages essentially threatening to cut off aid to Honduras if the migrant caravan continues on its way north, and also threatening to seal off the border between the United States and Mexico, probably using military forces to do that. They say, nevertheless, they're going to continue forward. Why? Because they say they have really nothing to lose. The best that could happen to them is that they could get into the United States and transform their lives forever, and probably the lives of generations of Hondurans if they're able to send back remittances to Central America. If they get caught, they say, they'll get sent back to where they were before. And so it's worth the risk. That's what the message that we're getting here. People say they're willing to take that risk, even if it means bringing their small children along with them. So these people are absolutely determined to make their way north. Behind me here, we want to show you some of the migrants here who are preparing to make their way actually back to the other side to Guatemala. Some of them say that they're going to be going back to shelters in that area. Others are Guatemalans who live in this region, and they do informal commerce every day over this river here. One of the unusual things that we're seeing right now at this moment, Mike, is Mexican immigration officials are actually on the shores of this river today, checking people's documents, asking them for identification and registering their names and information here as these migrants prepare to cross into Mexico on this borderland area.
Franc Contreras for us in southern Mexico. Thanks so much.